The cool evening breeze swept through the small suburban neighborhood where Danny lived. At only 13 years old, he was known for his curiosity and intelligence, often spending hours tinkering with gadgets and electronics in his garage-turned-lab. As Danny was dismantling an old radio to harvest parts for his latest project, his father, Mark, stepped into the garage. Mark, a software engineer, had always encouraged Danny's inventive nature. "Working on something new?" Mark asked, peering over Danny's shoulder at the scattered parts on the workbench. "Yeah, trying to build a better signal receiver." "Thought I could boost the Wi-Fi around here," Danny replied without looking up. Mark chuckled. "That would certainly make everyone happy. Let me know if you need help with the software side." Their moment of bonding was interrupted by the sudden blare of emergency sirens from the television inside. Curious, they both headed into the living room where Danny's older brother Tom was staring intently at the screen. "Look at this," Tom said as he turned up the volume. The news showed chaotic scenes from around the world. An anchor was speaking urgently. "Unconfirmed reports of unidentified flying objects sighted over major cities across the globe. Authorities are urging calm until more information is available." The screen split, showing a live feed of a massive silvery object descending slowly in the sky above Washington, D.C. It was unlike any aircraft known to man, its surface smooth and seamless, reflecting the city lights. Danny's mother, Lisa, entered the room, her face etched with concern. "What's going on?" "We're not sure yet," Mark replied, his voice tense as he watched the unfolding events. As the family stood watching, the broadcast cut to a live statement from the President of the United States. She stood at a podium, her demeanor calm but serious. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," she began, "today we stand at a pivotal moment in human history. Early this morning, our planet was approached by what we now understand to be extraterrestrial beings." Danny's heart raced. "Aliens? Really?" The President continued. "We have established initial contact, and their intentions appear peaceful. They have requested a meeting with leaders from each nation. This meeting will happen in Geneva 3 days from now." The broadcast showed the alien ship again, now stationary above the National Mall. The sight was surreal, like something out of a movie. "Peaceful? Yeah, right. Why would they come all this way just to talk?" Tom scoffed, folding his arms. "Maybe they're curious about us," Danny suggested, his mind alight with possibilities. "Or maybe they want something from us," Mark added, his tone skeptical. The news shifted to scenes of public reaction. Some people were panicking, others were celebrating, and many were just confused. "Dad, do you think they're telling the truth about being peaceful?" Danny asked, looking up at his father. Mark sighed. "I don't know, son, but whatever their reason, we need to be careful. The world isn't exactly united. This could change everything." Danny nodded, his mind buzzing with questions. What did the aliens look like? What technology did they have? And most importantly, what did they want with Earth? "I want to see them," Danny murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Tom laughed. "Trust me, little bro, you'll be seeing plenty of them soon enough." As the family continued to watch the developments, the night grew deeper. The stars outside overshadowed by the glowing presence of the alien ship. At that moment, Danny felt a mix of excitement and fear. The world had just gotten a lot bigger, and suddenly the young boy with a passion for electronics wondered if his skills could one day bridge the gap between two worlds. In the sprawling high-security conference room of the United Nations headquarters in New York, a palpable tension hung in the air. World leaders, diplomats, and military officials from across the globe had gathered in an unprecedented emergency assembly. The massive screen at the front displayed the serene yet imposing image of the Zaltrax ambassador, an alien entity whose appearance, a blend of bioluminescent skin and sharp angular features, challenged every preconceived notion of life beyond Earth. Danny's father, Mark, who had been called in as part of the technical advisory team, whispered to a colleague, "They look nothing like what we expected." His colleague, Dr. Alan Reyes, a leading astrophysicist, nodded in agreement, "And their technology is leagues beyond ours." Just the fact that they've managed this beyond ours, just the fact that they've managed this is proof enough. At the podium, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Thomas Lee, adjusted his glasses nervously before speaking. "Ambassador, the people of Earth are grateful for your peaceful approach. We are eager to understand your intentions and the purpose of your visit." The ambassador's voice, translated from its native clicks and whirs into English through a device, filled the room. "Leaders of Earth, we come to you with open hands. Our civilization has watched yours from afar, and we see potential in forming a connection. However, our laws require that we only engage with worlds that follow our directives. You will have one Earth day to agree to become a protectorate of the Zaltrax Dominion." A stunned silence followed. It wasn't an invitation, it was an ultimatum. The French president was the first to regain her composure. And if we refuse to accept these terms, the alien's luminescent eyes narrowed slightly. Then, regrettably, we will have to consider Earth a hostile entity and take necessary actions to neutralize the threat your independence poses. The threat was clear: surrender or face annihilation. As the meeting adjourned, Danny, who had been watching the live stream from his home, felt a surge of anger and fear. He turned to his brother Tom, who was home from college. "They can't just expect us to roll over. There has to be something we can do." Tom, looking equally troubled, replied, "We need to understand more. What's their technology like? What are their weaknesses?" Back at the UN, Mark and Dr. Reyes were in a heated discussion. "We can't just accept this, but our conventional weapons won't be enough if it comes to a fight," Mark said, looking over schematics of alien technology that had been hastily shared by international intelligence agencies. Dr. Reyes pointed at the screen where diagrams of the Zaltrax ships highlighted unknown materials and energy sources. "Their technology is based on principles we haven't even theorized, but perhaps we can learn enough from them to find a way to defend ourselves." Meanwhile, the Secretary General convened a closed-door session with select leaders and advisors. "We need plans both diplomatic and defensive," he stated firmly. In the safety of his home, Danny began to sketch ideas. His young mind, unbound by the limits of current scientific understanding, wandered through possibilities of countering the alien tech with innovative tactics. He started researching everything available on electromagnetic pulses, quantum computing, and unconventional warfare. Late into the night, while the world's leaders debated their grim options, Danny sent an email filled with ideas and sketches to his father. The subject line read simply, "Can these help?" As Mark read his son's email in his temporary office at the UN, he couldn't help but smile despite the gravity of the situation. Danny's ideas were untested and theoretical, but they sparked a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this young mind had the seed of a solution that could help them stand a chance against the alien threat. The Zaltrax presence had settled like a shadow over Danny's suburban neighborhood, transformed overnight into a monitored zone. Alien drones, sleek and silent, patrolled the skies, enforcing the new order with an unspoken threat of force. But within Danny, the simmering resentment and fear fueled a defiant spark. Early one Saturday morning, Danny was in his garage. His workspace now cluttered with schematics and electronic parts. He was deeply focused, soldering a circuit board for what he hoped would be a disruptive tool against the alien tech. "Danny, you've been out here for hours," his mother, Lisa, called from the doorway, a concerned look on her face. "You need to eat something." "Just a few more minutes, Mom." "I think I'm on to something," Danny replied without looking up. His father, Mark, entered the garage, his face drawn with the stress of the past few days. "What are you working on?" he asked, peering over Danny's shoulder. "It's a signal jammer," Danny explained. "I figured out that the drones operate on a specific frequency. If I can disrupt it, even for a few seconds, it might give people a chance to move without being tracked." Mark raised his eyebrows, impressed. "That's ambitious, son, but be careful. If they trace the disruption back to you." Danny cut him off, his voice firm. "We can't just sit around and do nothing. I want to help." That night, Danny and Tom ventured out, each carrying a homemade jammer tucked into their backpacks. The streets were eerily quiet under the oppressive glow of the drones hovering above. As they approached the town square, Danny activated his device. Instantly, the nearest drone twitched, its lights flickering before it veered off course. "Did you see that?" Tom whispered, a mix of excitement and disbelief in his voice. "Yeah, it worked," Danny whispered back, a surge of adrenaline rushing through him. The brothers quickly moved to spread more jammers around strategic points in the neighborhood, each time with the drones temporarily disabled, allowing people to peek from their windows and doors, witnessing acts of quiet rebellion. However, their success was short-lived. The next day, more sophisticated drones were deployed, immune to Danny's jammers. It was clear the Zaltrax were adapting, learning from human resistance tactics. Discouraged but not defeated, Danny returned to his garage, determined to improve his designs. As he worked, a knock came at the door. It was Mr. Peterson, an elderly neighbor and a retired electronics engineer. "I saw what you and your brother did last night," Mr. Peterson said, his eyes glinting with a mix of caution and respect. "I have some ideas that might help." Together, they pored over diagrams and components, Mr. Peterson's expertise guiding Danny's raw talent. They developed a new version of the jammer, now capable of randomizing frequencies in a way that was harder for the alien technology to adapt to. The word of their efforts spread, and soon other residents started showing up at Danny's garage, each bringing different skills and resources. A community of resistance began to form, bonded by a common cause and a shared enemy. As Danny's reputation grew, so did his resolve. Each successful disruption, each moment of reclaimed freedom, however brief, ignited hope across the community. Danny had become more than just a clever kid. He was a symbol of defiance, a leader in a grassroots fight against an overwhelming foe. In the dark of the night, under the watchful eyes of alien technology, a network of resistance thrived. Small sparks of rebellion fanning into a flame that promised to grow, driven by the courage and ingenuity of a young boy and his united community. The small victories in Danny's neighborhood had inspired similar acts of defiance across the country. News of a young boy leading a local resistance reached the ears of a clandestine group of international military leaders and strategic planners who had been working in the shadows since the Zaltrax's arrival. Intrigued and desperate for any advantage, they reached out to Mark, hoping to learn more about Danny's innovations. In a secure, undisclosed location, military officials and resistance leaders from various countries convened for a critical meeting. The room was a stark contrast to the high-tech surveillance and alien architecture now common in cities. Here, old maps and digital screens were scattered, a blend of old school and modern warfare planning. Colonel Harris, a seasoned military strategist from the U.S., addressed the group. We've seen pockets of resistance like what's happening in Danny's town, but we need a coordinated effort. This kid's got ideas that could change the game. Mark, present via a secure video link, nodded. Danny has been working on several projects. He's young, but don't underestimate him. He has a knack for turning theory into practical solutions. The decision was made to integrate Danny and his father into their operations, providing them with resources and a platform to expand their resistance technologies. Back at home, Danny was both excited and nervous about the proposition. His garage was soon upgraded with equipment sent discreetly by the Resistance's backers, transforming it into a mini lab. One evening, as Danny and Mr. Peterson were testing a new drone interception prototype, a group of new faces arrived, led by a man introduced as Major Singh, a tactical operations leader. Danny, we've been following your progress, Major Singh said, extending a hand to the young inventor. Your devices have caught the attention of many. We're here to help you scale up your efforts. With the Major came a team of experts, engineers, hackers, and former pilots, all eager to learn from and contribute to Danny's projects. Among them was Dr. Lena Ortiz, a brilliant cybersecurity expert known for her unconventional tactics against digital espionage. Your jammers are impressive, but we need to stay one step ahead of their adaptive tech, Dr. Ortiz explained as she examined Danny's designs. Let's work on integrating some decoy algorithms and maybe even some AI-driven countermeasures. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Danny's home became a hub of resistance activity, with people coming and going at all hours. The backyard, once a place for family barbecues, now hosted a secretive camp where drone tactics were developed and refined. Together, they improved the jammers, turning them into robust devices capable of creating safe zones free from surveillance. They also developed software that could hijack drones, turning them against their Zaltrax controllers. As their tools and tactics became more sophisticated, so did their operations. Danny's role transitioned from a local tinkerer to a key figure in a global resistance network. His strategies and inventions were distributed worldwide, replicated by other resistance cells. One night, gathered around the glow of computer screens, the team watched live as their hijacked drones successfully disrupted a Zaltrax supply line in Europe, a major victory. Cheers erupted in the room, and Danny at the center felt a surge of pride. He wasn't just fighting back anymore, he was helping lead a global movement. The resistance was no longer just a series of isolated skirmishes, but a coordinated effort striking at the heart of the Zaltrax occupation. With each success, humanity's hope grew, fueled by the fire of rebellion and the brilliance of a boy who had once just dreamed of improving Wi-Fi. Now he was altering the course of an interstellar conflict. The resistance had grown into a formidable force, stitching together a network of cells that spanned continents. Danny's innovations, once simple neighborhood projects, now powered critical missions against the Zaltrax forces. With the support of Dr. Ortiz, Major Singh, and other strategic minds, Danny refined his technology, tailoring it to exploit vulnerabilities in the alien command structures. In the bustling underground headquarters, Colonel Harris reviewed the latest plans with Danny and his team. Maps and digital projections illuminated the walls, showing potential targets in current Zaltrax positions. We have a window of opportunity, Colonel Harris explained, pointing to a cluster of sites on the map. Their communication hubs here, and here are less fortified at night. Your new drone jammers could give us the cover we need to take them out. Danny, standing beside his father and Mr. Peterson, nodded. We've set up the jammers to create a cascading effect. Once we knock out one hub, it'll disrupt their network long enough for us to hit the next. Major Singh chimed in, it's a domino strategy. Hit them fast and hard, one after another, before they can recalibrate. The room buzzed with nervous energy as the plan was set into motion. Teams were deployed across the globe, each equipped with Danny's latest devices. Back at headquarters, Danny monitored the operations from multiple screens, his heart racing with each update. As night fell across the different time zones, the resistance struck. In Europe, the first hub was disabled. Its alien overseers caught off guard as human forces swept in. The news of the initial success invigorated the team, and Danny couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. Next target, 2 minutes out, Dr. Ortiz announced, her eyes glued to a real-time satellite feed. Danny watched as the second hub, located in Asia, went dark. Cheers erupted around him, but he remained focused, his eyes fixed on the other operations. In North America, the scenario was tougher. The drone was initially repelled by heavy anti-air defenses. Danny quickly rerouted another drone to assist, providing the necessary distraction for the first to reach its target. Another victory was declared as the North American base fell. However, in South America, the situation was dire. The drone malfunctioned and the team was pinned down. With no time to waste, Danny initiated a manual override from headquarters, steering the drone to the target himself. The generator was hit, and the base's defenses collapsed just in time to save the resistance fighters. As the last base was neutralized, a palpable sense of triumph mixed with exhaustion filled the air. Danny, surrounded by his team, felt a moment of overwhelming relief. They had done it. The alien forces were defeated. The victory was monumental. With their generators destroyed, the Zaltrax had no choice but to retreat. Reports of their ships leaving Earth's orbit came flooding in, signaling the end of their occupation. In the command center, there was a moment of silence. A collective breath held and then released. Colonel Harris addressed the room. Thanks to Danny and each one of you, we've secured our planet. It's time to rebuild and ensure this never happens again. As the resistance celebrated, Danny stepped outside, looking up at the sky now clear of alien ships. He had dreamed of this moment, fought for it with every ounce of his intellect and courage. Earth was free once more, and while the future was uncertain, it was theirs to shape. The war was over. The Zaltrax forces, once looming over humanity, with the threat of annihilation, had retreated, leaving Earth to its native inhabitants. Cities, once battlegrounds, slowly began to stir to life as people emerged from hiding, blinking in the light of a world reborn. Danny, who had started as a curious boy with a penchant for electronics, had become a hero, celebrated not only for his brilliance but for his courage. In the quiet suburb where it all began, Danny walked through the neighborhood with his father, Mark. The streets were filled with people rebuilding, talking, and planning for the future. The sense of community was palpable, strengthened by the trials they had endured together. You know, I always believed you were meant for something great, Mark said, looking at his son with pride, but I never imagined it would be something like this. Danny smiled, feeling a mix of pride and relief. I just did what I felt was right. We all did. They approached a local park where a community gathering was underway. Children played freely, their laughter a sound many thought they might never hear again. Families reunited and friends recounted tales of bravery and loss. At the center of the park, a makeshift stage had been set up. Danny was invited to speak, a prospect that still made him nervous despite everything he had achieved. As he stood before his community, he looked out at the faces of people who had supported him, believed in him, and fought alongside him. Today we begin anew, Danny began, his voice clear and strong. The war has taught us many things, but the most important lesson is about our own strength and determination. We faced an enemy that seemed invincible with technology far beyond our own, yet we prevailed. He paused, letting his words sink in. We prevailed because of each of you, your courage, your resilience, and your unwillingness to give up. As we rebuild, let's not forget the unity that brought us here. Let's use what we've learned to create a better world. Cheers and applause broke out, resonating with a sense of shared victory and hope. After the speeches, as the crowd dispersed, a group of young children approached Danny, their eyes wide with admiration. Can you teach us how to make things like you do? One little girl asked, her voice full of curiosity. Danny knelt down, his heart full. Of course, he said, but I'll teach you more than that. I'll teach you to think, to dream, and to imagine, because that's where all the best ideas start. And so, as the sun set on a day marked by reflection and renewal, Danny found himself surrounded by eager young minds ready to learn. He started to explain the basics of electronics using bits of scrap and salvaged materials, crafting lessons not just in technology but in hope, The rebuilding of Earth was not just repairing buildings or restoring power. It was about rebuilding lives, restoring faith in humanity, and looking to the stars not with fear, but with wonder and ambition. Danny's journey had inspired a generation, and as he taught, he knew this was just the beginning. As night fell, Danny looked up at the clear sky, now free of alien ships, and allowed himself to dream of the future. It was a future filled with possibilities, challenges, and the promise of new adventures. For Danny and for humanity, it was truly a new dawn.